Good morning, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. It is Wednesday, hump day. Fun day for me, exciting day for me. I've been asked to speak at Northeastern High School by John Urie, a friend of mine, football coach, and pretty excited about that. I'll just talk a little bit about career building and how to get a job, how to look for a job, how to figure out what it is that you want to do for a job. And I hope I can bring them some value today, this morning, talking about that. I'll be over there about 10 o'clock this morning. And this morning, as I was getting ready to head out for work, and I got up this morning, worked out with my wife, which was awesome. And I remember telling myself for so long I didn't have time, which was, I don't even know how I convinced myself of such foolery, because I did absolutely nothing between 6:15 and 7:15 in the morning each day. I would literally either lay in bed and email or be on Facebook or walk around the house doing nothing. But I kept convincing myself that I didn't have time. And it wasn't until I realized that, reading a book, or my coach Pat told me that, start replacing I don't have time with, and say this out loud, it's not important enough to me yet. And we talked about a couple examples of that, right? Like exercise is it's part of our health. It's part of taking care of our body. It's part of, staying healthy and hopefully living a long, healthy life. And at my age, I'm, still relatively young at 44 years old. I've been blessed to not have, any real health issues. I've never suffered any, major, injuries that have kept me away from work or impacted my day-to-day ability to get around. And, you're often reminded through life how quickly that stuff can change. And his point is that, in my day-to-day life, multiple times, whether it was in the morning or whether it was after work or lunchtime, when I actually had time to exercise, I would fool myself and tell myself this lie that I didn't have time, right? I had to work, I was busy, I needed to get home, I had things to do in the morning, blah, 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 right? I've been coming up with lies to tell myself for 4 years now. And when I started replacing that line of I don't have time with it's not important enough to me yet, it really was eye-opening to me. So when I woke up in the morning and I had the opportunity to exercise, when I said it's not important enough to me yet, it really sunk in. And I'm like, well, yeah, it's important. Well, then why wouldn't you do it? If it's important to you, why wouldn't you do it? And I felt like an absolute turd. Like if brushing your teeth is important, right? Use a simple example for the case of making a point. Well, what if we just decided we weren't going to brush our teeth? Pretty nasty if you think about it, but at the end of the day, our teeth would fall out. So that's a very obvious, important thing that we prioritize and make sure that, we do what it takes each day. Now, it takes, 30 seconds to brush your teeth. Doesn't really bother us too much. Doesn't take a lot of mental fortitude. Doesn't take a lot of physical energy. But it's important, and we do it every day. And when I started replacing I don't have to, because listen, we all have, and it sounds so cliche-ish, I hate talking about these things sometimes, but we all have the same 24 hours in a day, yet we wonder why some people are able to get so much more done. So it's much easier said than done. I'll give you that. Like, you can't just write that down or start telling yourself, hey, it's not important to me yet. Magically, you're going to get up and start exercising and lose 50 pounds. But it's a darn good place to start, and it worked for me. And it applied to things like spending time with family. I love my family, but oftentimes on the weekends when I didn't have a lot going on with work, and maybe I was just relaxing, I would say, you know what, I'd love to go see my family, but I don't have time. I'm too busy. And it was a lie. I lied to myself. I lied to my family. It was terrible. And really what I was saying was, to justify it in my mind, I was busy all week and now I want to relax, so I'm too busy to go visit my family. Now let me put a little bit of spin on this for you to really have it hit home. When does our health become important to us? When it becomes an issue, right? You go to the doctor says you're overweight, you got diabetes, your blood pressure's high, you're going to die. Now, all of a sudden, it becomes important. We don't have any more time. We can't stop working. We can't stop spending time with our family. We can't stop doing, the things around the house that need to be done. We've just now realized how important it is, and we're no longer willing to make excuses about why we can't get it done. Same thing with family. It was about 2 years ago, my grandfather passed. And during my youth, I was extremely, extremely close with him. He taught me some very valuable life lessons. To this day, most of my work ethic stems from a summer that I spent with my grandfather. And for those that know him, I have a German heritage on my dad's side, and I called my grandfather Opa. Never called him Grandpa, never called him grandfather, never called him granddad. I always called him Opa, which is German for grandpa. And I remember spending basically an entire week in the summer when I was down there visiting them out and the yard, and he was mowing, and he had one arm. He was in a farming accident, I believe when he was around 30 years old, and lost half of his arm. Never slowed him down. And as a young kid, I was probably 5 to 7 years old. He took me outside and I helped him with lawn work. I kind of thought it was cool. Mowing the grass was cool. Sometimes he'd let me ride, the ride mower or run one of the piece of equipment, which I thought was super cool, right? Anything that made noise and was loud was cool to me. And we spent like 2 straight days out in the yard, and he was chopping firewood with one arm. And he was like this Greek god. I'm telling you, he was at this point, my grandfather was probably, 55, 60 years old. And he was out there just whacking firewood with one arm, stacking it. I got tired. I was a young kid, and I got tired just stacking the wood that he was chopping with one arm. And, the moral of the story is that I cherish those memories with my family. And when my grandfather passed, it became important to me to spend more time with my family. Because once I had lost my grandfather, I couldn't get it back. And, when we talk about things like our health, when we talk about things like family, when we talk about, that opportunity at work that presents itself, when we talk about the ability to apply ourselves in school, for those of you that are in college, or for those of you that are in high school, for those of you that are, just trying to find your way and working your way up through a company, start using the term, whenever you decide to not do something, say out loud, it's not important enough to me yet. And if it's not important, you'll feel okay. If it is important, I think you're going to take a second look at that and go, you know what, it really is important. I'm going to make time. And I think you'll find just how much flexibility you have in your schedule, and start replacing some of the meaningless stuff that we do with important stuff. And for me, it's just, it's been extremely rewarding for me to be able to spend that time with my family that I missed out on before. This morning and so far this week, and a few times over the last month or so, I've been able to exercise with my wife, which not only makes me feel healthy, I feel better throughout the day. My energy's great, but it's a great opportunity for her and I to spend a little bit of time together alone. And I love my wife, and that 45 minutes or hour in the morning goes an extremely long way, and it means a lot to me, and I know it means a lot to her. So don't lie to yourself. Be honest with yourself. And I think you'll find that you have more time on your hands than you realize. All right, guys, have a good day.